everyone, welcome back to another video of my opinions about classical music. If you're a new viewer, welcome, and if you're an old viewer, welcome back. It's super nice to have you back here. In today's video, I am super excited to tell you that by popular demand, I will be talking about Eddy's La Campanella from TwoSet Violin's World Tour concert in Munich. As you may or may not know, I have actually talked about Eddy's La Campanella in the past. Following TwoSet's 4mm subs concert, I made a video about Eddy's La Campanella, and I loved and still love that performance so much. So the question is if this performance will live up to the performance from the 4mm concert. So let's start off by listening to both versions. And just as a quick note, because they only played the first few sections of La Campanella in the Munich concert, we will also only listen to the same few sections in the 4mm version. So let's start with the 4mm version and then we will jump right into the Munich version. So, after listening to both versions, I can safely say that they are both amazing. Both definitely have their good points, and both definitely have some points that could be slightly improved, but there is something I think is very important to keep in mind while we judge these versions. And that is that the first version we heard, the 4mm version, was only practiced in 2 weeks. He only had 2 weeks to practice this piece. And while we only heard a small section now, the piece itself is much longer and way more difficult than it sounds like. He's had about a year and a half longer to practice this piece now, so it would make sense that the new version, the one from the Munich concert, sounds better. Sure, he claims right before this performance that he only practiced Beethoven for the Munich concert, but he would have prepared La Campanella for the tour itself, so I think it's fair to say he's had a bit more practice than for the 4mm concert anyway. But with that said, I do think he has improved since the performance at the 4mm concert. The first thing I noticed was that his attacks, the way he starts his notes, have become so crisp. There's no extra small sounds and no hesitation or any squeaks or anything like that. Throughout, it's way better than the 4mm concert. I also think, connected to his crisp attacks, that he is more on time rhythmically as well. And both of those points are of course helped by the fact that he has slowed down the piece a bit for the Munich concert. And I think that's a great idea. I think it really helps him do all the right things musically. Let me actually show you what I mean. Let's listen through the first run through of the main theme in both versions. And let me know if you agree that the attacks, the starts of every note, are more crisp in the Munich version than the 4mm version. So what do you think? Do you agree? Let me know in the comments down below. But anyway, the next bit I want to talk about is how his phrasing has improved so much from the 4mm version to the Munich version. So to explain phrasing real quick, it's how you choose to shape a melody line. Think of like a sentence in the music that you choose how you want to say. And phrasing is actually a really important and big part of classical music because it's what sets the different recordings apart. Or at least it's a big part of it. And of course it's individual what you think is good phrasing or a good way to say a musical sentence, but in my humble opinion I like his phrasing better in the Munich version than in the 4mm version. And there's a few reasons why I think I like the Munich version over the 4mm version. The first thing being that in Munich he has a lot more freedom. Obviously in the 4mm version he's playing with a conductor, he's playing with an orchestra, and there's a bunch of people involved, so a lot of this has to be planned ahead. All the phrasing and all tempo changes and all that has to be planned in advance. While in Munich it's obviously just him and Sophie playing, so he can choose a more free interpretation of the phrasing. And so he chooses more of the stuff he wants to do to shape the music live in the concert. To give you an example, let's listen to one section from the 4mm concert and then again the same section from the Munich concert. Listen out for how he stretches the notes and plays with time in the 4mm version, and then compare to how he does it in the Munich version where he does a lot more of it. So let's start by listening to the 4mm version. And now let's compare it to the Munich version and also notice how Sophie actually follows him really well in this part. Don't you agree that the Munich one feels like it has so much more intention behind it? And that is not to say that the 4mm version is bad, not at all. I love the 4mm version, but the Munich version feels more refined, and that is of course related to how long he's had to practice this piece. Because as I mentioned earlier, the 4mm version was practiced in only 2 weeks. How insane is that? But it is clear to me that he's been practicing at least 40 hours a day since the 4mm concert. And it might just be a difference in the recording, and obviously now in the Munich concert he plays on his own violin, but I really feel like his tone has improved a lot as well. But with all that said, there is one small, tiny little thing. It's so small I don't even think I pointed it out in the video I made about La Campanella from the 4mm concert. It is something so small, and it's something that he does both in the 4mm version and in the Munich version in pretty much the exact same way. And obviously because he does it in the exact same way both times, it made me think maybe he does it on purpose. But listening to the rest of his interpretation and how he phrases all the other parts of this music, I don't think so. It just doesn't make sense with how he's interpreted everything else. It is just the very ending of the part we've heard from Munich. The beginning of the phrase feels like he wants to slow down, but then he suddenly speeds back up to the tempo he had before, and I think it is in anticipation of the parts that to come next. Obviously in Munich he didn't play the next bit, but in the 4mm concert he did play the next bit, and I think that's where he gets the shape of the phrase from. And while I can see his logic of wanting to speed back up to tempo before the next bit, I don't think it works really well musically. Not really as a transition for the next bit like he does in the 4mm, and definitely not as the ending of a piece like he does in the Munich concert. Let me just show you the ending of both versions again, and let me know if you agree with me, or obviously if you disagree. To me at least, the ending feels just a tiny bit rushed. Might just be me though, do let me know in the comments. But anyway, to summarize, I think it's really obvious to anyone who's listening that Eddy's been practicing at least 40 hours a day since the 4mm concert. His tone has improved, his rhythm and time has improved, and just in general I feel like he has a more clear intention with his phrasing. My favorite is the Munich version, but maybe you disagree with me. Let me know in the comments if you prefer the 4mm version or the Munich version of La Campanella. And with that, I want to say thank you so much for watching. It really means a lot to me. Have a gold star if you want it. And if you want a bonus gold star, you can subscribe. But of course, as always, there's no pressure on that. But I do hope I will see you next time.